Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. So I have a very special video for you today. We're going to talk about layering adhesive vinyl. However, I am going to make a bunch of projects to take over to this local school, add some fun to a teacher's room, and this video is sponsored by Cricut because they are going to give the school a Cricut machine plus a cart full of goodies. And I want you to stay tuned to the end so you can see all of that happen on video. First of all, we're going to layer some vinyl. So I am going to make a variety of projects for the school and several of each of those, but I'm just going to show you a few of those. So we're going to talk about layering adhesive vinyl. So whether it's permanent vinyl or removable, layering is basically the same. And I'm going to walk you through tips and tricks, whether it's several colors, just 2 colors, however many colors you need to layer. We are going to talk about some of my tips and tricks for how to do that, and hopefully it will help you with your projects. So let's start by taking a look at the supplies we're going to use. The supplies you're going to need are as follows. So we're going to use a variety of vinyl. These projects are going to be large. I'm going to use removable for some and permanent for some. So the rule of thumb is removable for things that need to be removed later. So signs on the walls, on the doors, that type of thing. And then permanent I'm going to use for like the bins, the laptops, that type of thing. Things that will be used every day. Then we're going to use some transfer tape. Parchment paper, very important for our layering techniques. Then I'm going to use a blue mat. I'm going to use a 12 by 24 mat because like I said, these projects are going to be large. A paper cutter is going to come in really handy because I'm going to be doing a lot of projects with transfer tape and needing to transport them to another location. So I'm going to cut my transfer tape to size. Weeding tool, scraper, and of course your Cricut machine. I'm going to use a Cricut Explore Air 2, but any Cricut machine will work for these projects. So now that we have our supplies, I've designed a bunch of projects. So I've designed some room signs, some signs for some robot kits, some labels for the classroom laptops, as well as some signs for the doors in the room. So now let's head to our Cricut machine, cut the vinyl, and weed it for all these projects. So now that I have all my vinyl ready, it's time to get to layering. So we are going to start simple. We're going to start with just a few colors. We're going to work our way up to layering 3 colors like on top of each other. And then ultimately we're going to work to a large project that uses several different colors so you can see how that works. So let's look through the 4 projects that I've created and how to layer the vinyl for each one of those. All right, we're going to start simple with this design. So this is a label for some robot kits. The classroom I'm doing is like a STEAM classroom, so they have kits for robots. And so for each of these labels, I have a square piece of vinyl. So I like to use my mat when layering. First tip, because it's sticky and it has lines on it. So I can line this square up with the lines running vertically and horizontally on my mat. So now I know that this rectangle is straight and on my mat straight. And then you'll need your vinyl, already cut, already weeded, that goes on top of this square piece of vinyl or rectangle piece of vinyl. And what I do is I trim the carrier sheet fairly close in a lot of these cases, so especially with these gears. And then for this one, I want to line everything up on the center of these letters in this piece. So I find another grid line and I make sure it's straight with this grid line and lined up approximately in the center with this grid line. Then we can add our gear into place. And what I can do is I can make sure that it's not past the 3 or past the I, again using my grid lines as guides. And then I know that this is to the top of here, so I don't want it to go anywhere near the bottom because I want room at the top and the bottom, and I can see that I have plenty of room. So this helps me line everything up, and now, again, I cut my piece of transfer tape with that paper cutter I showed you so that it's super straight, because I'm going to be transporting these labels to the school. So just cut that transfer tape with the paper cutter to size, and then we're going to peel it from the backing paper, and we're going to stick the backing paper to our mat in the third location. So we have the bottom layer, the top layer, the transfer tape backing sheet. And then I'm going to use the grid lines on my transfer tape. So Cricut transfer tape has grid lines, which makes this even easier. I'm going to put everything straight on here so that I don't have any problems transferring several of these to my surface. So I'm going to line up these transfer lines with my letters. Then once I have it fairly straight, I'm going to lay it down, making sure there aren't any bubbles. And we're just going to press it down. And you can press it down onto the adhesive of this mat, that's fine. Then I'm going to start picking it up from the corner and watching it, and make sure it peels everything up as I'm going along. If something doesn't peel up, I just lay it back down, burnish a little bit more, and keep lifting. And so I'll just repeat that all the way up, making sure I have all the pieces of vinyl stuck to my transfer tape before applying it to the rectangle. And then once everything's coming up, we're just going to remove this. And now we want to put it onto here. That's where the next tip, which is parchment paper, comes in. So I'm going to put the parchment paper where there's just a little bit of my green rectangle showing at the top. And then I'm going to lay this over the top. Now this vinyl will not really stick to the parchment paper. It'll just easily peel back off. So I can move it. So I can move it around and locate it exactly where I want it on that rectangle. Then I'm also using those grid lines to make sure everything is straight. And once I have it located and straight, I'm going to push it down across that top that is exposed. I'm going to use that scraper tool and hold it. And then I can just start pulling the parchment paper out from the bottom and working my way down with the scraper tool. This also really helps eliminate those bubbles when layering vinyl pieces as well. And so now my vinyl layers are all together. So now what I'm going to do is pick up the transfer tape, the vinyl, and the backing paper from that green rectangle, because I'm going to transfer this to my surface later at the school, and I'm going to apply it right back to that backing paper for the transfer tape. And then I'm just going to lift the entire thing up, and now I have one neat package that's ready to go to the school to transfer to the bins. So now these bins actually get a label on the side as well as on the top. So let's make the label for the top so I can show you how it's similar but a little bit different. So for this one, I'm starting with roughly the same components, and we're going to do it basically the same. So apply our green rectangle. So this is getting larger. So you can see we're actually going to get really large here in a minute. And what I'm using, I'm going to use this to also locate my design. So I know that this lines up with this, so I'm going to move it just slightly over. Make sure everything is straight. And then on this one, I haven't trimmed this yet. So we just want to trim that carrier sheet really close to the gears so that I can lay it out onto this design. And so I'm using this to kind of locate everything to make sure I don't get it too large. So I didn't feel like the location was super critical in the case of these labels. So I'm just kind of winging it. So the gear might be slightly different angle in each one, but I think it still will be fine. So now, once again, peel the transfer tape back. Use those grid lines to get everything straight. And in this case, especially because it's longer, I'm going to apply the transfer tape from one side to the other, burnish down well, and then start peeling up. Again, burnishing any more places where the vinyl isn't lifting up as I go along. And then once everything is lifted up, we'll just pull the entire thing up. And once again, we're going to use our parchment paper trick. So this time I'm going to put my parchment paper where a little bit of the left side is exposed instead of the top. I'm going to put my design down, use my grid lines to get it straight, and just eyeball it basically in the center. And once it's where I want it, I'll just lay it down on this left side, hold it, pull the parchment paper once again, and just work my way from left to right, sticking down the vinyl layers to that bottom layer. And then I like to burnish everything well right now. So hopefully when I get to where I'm going and need to label these bins, everything will pull up a little bit easier. And then we'll just pick everything up, backing paper included. And I'm just gonna stick it to the backing paper for the transfer tape once again. Just so everything, like, I don't want the sticky of the transfer tape like picking up on stuff as it's in my stack, because I'm just sort of stacking these for transport. So now let's take a look as if there are more than 2 layers, so stacking more layers on top of each other, and how that works with these same techniques. All right, so these are labels for the laptops, and there are 3 layers of vinyl. You can do the same thing for more than 3 layers. So what I'm gonna do is lay these layers out, and these aren't straight, they're circular, so how straight they are doesn't necessarily matter. But I'm gonna lay them out until where the top layer, middle layer, bottom layer. So in order from left to right. Then we'll take our transfer tape, and I'm gonna try to get this number approximately in the center and straight. And we'll just burnish the number down. So since I'm having a little trouble picking this up, I'm gonna do one trick for you. So if you're having trouble picking up from this mat, then what you can do is pick up the backing paper and the transfer tape at the same time. Flip that over, burnish from the back, and a lot of times this carrier sheet is easier to peel from the back. So that is definitely an option when you're layering if you're having trouble picking your vinyl up. So then we're gonna put the piece of parchment paper down, a little bit of our circle exposed. And I also want to note that the parchment paper doesn't really stick to the mat. It holds it a little bit, but not entirely. And then we're just going to locate this number over the center of the circle. Once it's approximately in the center, I'll hold down on this side, pull it out, and swipe across. And now we want to pick up both of these layers onto our transfer tape. So we're just going to peel this back. And rounded shapes are definitely harder to get, so I'm going to pull this up and do it from the back again. And I'm not even going to burnish and see if it'll come up from the back, and it will. So the back is definitely easier. And then we'll repeat for our next layer. And you can just repeat this for as many layers as you would like. So I'm going to add the circle with the number to the gear, then press it down on this left side, hold that into place, and move my way across. And now this one's ready to go to the school. And again, there's actually not a lot of extra transfer tape left, but you can add it back to the backing paper for the transfer tape if you would like. And these are also ready. So now let's go large and look at layering a really large vinyl design and what differences there are there. Yes, it's large. Yes, there's a lot of colors. So this was one color, this is another, and another, and a fourth. So 1, 2, 3, 4 layers, 4 different color layers on top of a green rectangle. So let me show you how I do this one. So I'm gonna put the layers together first because none of them overlap each other in this case. So we have the white stripes, and then ours is going to say Explore, and I've cut that out of one piece. And then it's going to have a book out of another color and a circle. And I did say these didn't overlap, but this is in the middle. I'm going to show you a trick for that. So the first thing is you may have to trim some of these up. So this one I'm going to get really close to this E so that, like, you don't want the carrier sheet of this one overlapping the vinyl of another one. And then I'm going to use the white to sort of locate everything. I've laid the white strips out on my mat where they should be, using the grid lines as my guide to keep them straight as well as in location, because these are measured. So that's why I like using the mat when layering. So then we can put that on there. And then once again, so first of all, let's trim this book close to the edge. And once we have the book trimmed, it will fit in there fine, but we need this yellow piece in the center. So what I like to do in this case is just to take my scissors and trim this carrier sheet out. Because there isn't any vinyl here, there's no reason for me to need to layer twice. So I'm just going to trim out the center. Add this book into place. Then cut this one really close to the edge. And once it's trimmed, I can add it right to the center of that. And everything is in location that needs to go on top of the green. So because this is so large, I'm gonna do this, get it off the mat, and then do the green. So we're gonna peel this transfer tape back, and I'm gonna use the grid lines along these white strips to make sure I get everything straight. So these are really large, and when I apply them, I'm gonna wanna make sure it's straight. So getting it straight on the transfer tape is gonna help with that. Because this one's so long, we can actually use the parchment paper hack for the transfer tape as well as the vinyl. So we are going to go ahead and lay the parchment paper down, expose a little bit over on this side, then finish peeling that backing sheet back from the transfer tape. So I have everything where I think I want it, and I'm just gonna press down over on this side, and I'm just gonna peel this up. I'm gonna expose about half of it, start laying the transfer tape down, and making sure that it's gonna go on straight. If everything looks straight, and it does, then we can go ahead and start pressing it down. So I'm gonna use my scraper again. I'm gonna go from left to right, and as I'm going, I'm making sure everything seems to be lining up fairly straight. It may not be perfect, but I at least want to get it pretty straight to make it easier to apply later. And then once I get to the transfer tape, the parchment paper again, I'll just again peel back, expose a little more, and keep going from left to right. And then once all the transfer tape is in place, we'll just want to burnish it down really well. And we're going to start lifting up from one side to the other. So I like to start on this left side, pick it up from left to right. If I get over here and I'm having trouble peeling this up, I don't want to take the chance on messing this up. So I might pull this up with the backing sheet attached, flip the entire thing over, and then remove that. But here, I'm just concentrating on getting all of these little small bits onto my transfer tape. And then hopefully these other pieces will be a little bit easier. So I'm just going to pick up the carrier sheet for both the green and probably the yellow. We'll see if that peels back. So it's just going to pick it up on its own. So now the blue and the white are on my transfer tape, and I've picked up the green and the yellow with the carrier sheet attached to the back. If you're having trouble picking up any of these, again, turn to the back. Try to remove it from the back instead of fighting it and like messing up the rest of the project. So once I turn it over from the back, I may be able to easily remove this carrier sheet, and I didn't mess anything up with the rest of my design. And again, I feel like having the mat under it with the sticky really helps with this. Then I'll just peel back the carrier sheet from the yellow, and this one is ready to be put on the green. So what I'm going to do is lift this up and move it to a place where it's not going to get damaged or anything. Then we'll remove all of this from the mat. Then just add the green vinyl to the mat. And I know that this top was the factory cut, so it's straight. So I'm just going to line it up on that top line. Press it down well. And then we'll use the parchment paper again for assembly. So I'm going to lay that parchment paper down, leaving a little bit exposed here on the edge. And then we'll take our vinyl piece. So that vinyl already on the transfer tape, and we're just going to lay it onto the parchment and get it straight and in location. Once I have it where it looks straight, I'm going to make sure it's down on this exposed edge and pull it out slowly. So I just want to pull out a little bit at a time and work my way from left to right. And this entire time, we're just making sure it's staying straight. And now I can go by the vinyl because I have those long white vinyl pieces on there, but otherwise you would use your grid lines to make sure everything stays straight. And there we have another classroom sign complete. Once again, I like to go over it with my scraper, and then I'll just peel this one back from the mat. You can reattach that backing paper for the transfer tape, and it is ready to go to the school to be applied. I ended up doing one more project, and I just wanted to show you because it turned out a little bit different as far as the layering. So these are just like signs for the doors in the room. This is one that's completely assembled. Then I'm going to make another one. This one is actually an after-school program that this teacher does. So I'm just going to take the transfer tape. I'm going to start with the top layer, so that's similar, just making sure everything's straight. And then because this is a weird shape, this is what I ended up doing. So I ended up layering the lettering on first with the parchment paper hack. Then for this one, just barely press down, just enough to get that on there. And what I'm going to do is pull this up and lay these underneath. So what we'll need to do is trim this pretty closely on all sides. Then I'm just going to lift it up, and this time I'm just going to leave that vinyl stuck to the green. I don't want it to pull up yet. Add this blue into place. Lay that transfer tape back down. And I'll repeat on the other side with my other little light bulb here. I'm just going to attempt to get that white transfer out of there. And because these are so intricate, I'm going to peel this back, and I'm going to peel this up from the back, and then I'll just lay it right back down, and now it's in the right location. So I'll just repeat on this side. Again, it's pretty intricate with all the small pieces, so I'll probably just lift up, peel that from the back. Then once again, once it's off, just apply this right down, and now I have a sign ready to apply to the door. So there's another way to add elements when layering. All right, now I have all these cool projects. What am I going to do with them? It's time to head to the school and put all of these projects into place into the teacher's room. So we're going to head there, and I'll do a little bit of the application on video. Not a ton. This isn't necessarily a vinyl application video. I will be using the hinge method for several of these, especially these large signs. I do have another video that explains the hinge method in detail, and I will link to that in the description below, so you can head there if you want to learn more about that. As preparation, before I go to the school, I'll be doing things like marking the center. So if you put marks on the transfer tape, it doesn't matter, right? Because they're not going to be actually adhered to the surface. So I could mark on the transfer tape the center of this, and it would probably help me locate it in the classroom when I get there. So if you're doing projects like this where you're not sure where they're going to go and you're going to be doing it off-site, I would recommend prepping things like the transfer tape. Like we put the transfer tape on the whole thing, we put the backing on there, marking the center of it, keeping those grid lines straight. All those prep things that we did will help me when I get to the school installing all of these in the classroom. So let's head out. Time for the big reveal. So we did tons of projects in the classroom today, including room signs, robot kit labels, labels for those laptops, and you saw me putting the signs on the door. Plus, I get to gift an Explore 3, an Easy Press 2, and all kinds of gifts from Cricut, including this cart. So I hope you enjoy these in the classroom.
This is amazing. I'm so excited. These labels will help our students stay more organized when we're returning equipment where it needs to go. We got so many projects going on, so organization is key. And I know myself and my kids are going to be so excited to get to making on this machine. So,
all right.
thank you.
Thank you for having us. I really hope that you enjoyed the makeover of that teacher room, and then that cart full of supplies that Cricut gave to the school. I'm so happy to be a part of this campaign and been able to give back to my community a little bit through making these projects, as well as the donation from Cricut to the school, which was simply amazing. So I do hope you enjoyed that. But if you have any questions about anything we covered, like the vinyl layering itself, feel free to drop down in the comment section and ask away. If you enjoyed this video, liked even just the reveal portion of it, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. You never know what we're going to do here, obviously, and you don't want to miss any of the fun. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.